Hi, I'm Shira, passionate snake keeper, educator, and emissary for snake therapy. And this is Severus Snake, the boa constrictor imperator. In today's video, I'm going to start by addressing what I consider to be the most important points related to the decision of getting a snake for a pet so that you can get all the benefits that come with it. I do want to point out, though, that the points we discussed today are all valuable even if you already own a snake, because being knowledgeable and responsible not only benefits the animal, but also the human caretaker. And the more you know and the more responsible you are, the more likely you are to share many happy years together. So what do you think, Severus? Should we get to it? He says yes. If you're new here and don't know what I mean by snake therapy, definitely go check out the episode, What the Heck is Snake Therapy, to get the full explanation. I'll put a link to it right up there. But to briefly summarize, although snakes are often demonized, these incredible animals can actually offer powerful mental and emotional health benefits to humans if we move past our biases, learn more about them, and take the time to develop relationships with them. I know this from decades of personal experience, and because I also work with an animal therapy nonprofit called The Little Zoo, where I constantly witness people of all ages and backgrounds reaping the rewards of interacting with snakes. And after many of those therapy visits, people tell me that they have become inspired to get a snake for a pet. And the most frequently asked questions after that usually concern what snake they should get, how easy or hard it is to take care of them, and I'm going to be answering those questions throughout the lifespan of this channel. But today let's focus on the basics, the most important things that every person who has or is interested in getting a snake needs to think about in order to ensure the welfare of the animal and the positive outcomes of caring for it. I can't tell you how many times during a snake therapy session I've heard people say things like, "Oh, I had a snake a while ago, but it died," or "We had to give it away because it got too big." This absolutely breaks my heart every time. Most snakes that are common to the pet trade are relatively easy to care for, but note that I said relatively. Sure, in comparison to a dog, which needs feeding twice a day, walking 2 to 3 times a day, and might eat your shoes if left alone for more than a few hours, yeah, a snake is easier to care for. A lot of people, though, are under the impression that a snake just needs a tank and a heat mat, and it only eats once or twice a month, and then they're like, "Oh, cool, I'm gonna get one." But what people often don't consider is that each species has, you guessed it, unique requirements for optimum health. Worse yet, most big box pet stores are notorious for providing piss poor or straight up false information about how to actually take proper care of the animal. And in fact, they sometimes incorrectly identify the species that they're selling. The point is, do your research before getting the animal. And if you already have the animal, do your research anyway. Back when I was first owning snakes, the internet definitely didn't have the wealth of amazing resources there are today to help you choose which type of snake might be best for you and how to care for it. I made some mistakes in my husbandry back then that I feel guilty about to this day. These days, though, you have no excuse. There is so much information out there now, and in fact, almost too much. Sometimes it's really overwhelming, and many sites even contradict each other. Don't worry. I'm going to help you get started by helping you identify what kind of research you need to do, and I'll even put some links to some of my most trusted resources in the description below. The fact is, a corn snake has different needs from a ball python, for example, so you can't treat them the same without causing the animal to suffer. Animal suffering is not cool. Also, Since we're talking about bonding and relationships with snakes on this channel, you should understand that poor health and stress can definitely affect the animal's behavior too. So if you don't properly care for them, you may end up with a grumpy snake that is in no mood to have a relationship with you. Of course, the fact that you're here watching this video means that you want that relationship and that you're interested in the therapeutic opportunities that you can get from it. So, although I don't consider myself an expert, I want to offer you as much as I can from my own experience and research to get you started in the best possible way. Right? You and me, buddy. Besties for life. Let's start with number 1, size. Yeah, I know, size isn't all that matters, but it does matter. Do you know how big the snake you want is going to get? What type of enclosure suits it best? And do you have space in your home for the appropriately sized enclosure? Let me tell you a little story. I went to the amazing East Bay Vivarium in Berkeley, California about 15 years ago, and I saw this stunning little baby snake in the display. So I asked the person working there about it, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's a reticulated python. They'd be great pets if they didn't get to be 30 feet long." I mean, they don't always get that long, but easily 16 to 20 feet minimum. That's the kind of thing you want to think about before getting the animal, right? Here's another one. Why do you think the Everglades are overrun with Burmese pythons right now? Well, they are gorgeous animals and actually are very popular in the pet trade, but they can get up to 20 feet long and weigh 200 pounds. Most likely, some ill-informed and irresponsible people got some Burms as babies, and when they got too big for them to handle, they thought, well, I'll just set it free. This is why we've got an invasive species that's destroying the ecosystem in the Everglades. And now there are massive sanctioned killing sprees to eradicate them. They're often going about it in really inhumane ways. It's not the snake's fault. They were just trying to survive. I know I'm ranting, so I'll move on. The point is, there are plenty of pet snakes to choose from that don't get that big, but generally speaking, you should expect to end up having an enclosure that's at least 3 to 4 feet in length by the time your snake is fully matured, even for smaller species of snakes. Another thing to think about is the species arboreal. Well, plan on having not just a wide enclosure, but a tall enclosure so that they can climb like they would in their natural habitat. The lesson here is to make sure you think about these things before you impulse buy a snake just because you like the way it looks. And whatever you do, don't release it into the wild if you can't care for it anymore. Find a good reptile adoption organization to ensure it's rehomed properly. Number 2, heat and humidity parameters. Make sure you know what temperatures and humidity are appropriate for the particular species of snake you're getting. Just because the animal can survive in the temperature you keep your home at does not mean it will be healthy for it. You will need to do some work and buy certain equipment to create the correct environment inside of its enclosure. As you most likely know, snakes are cold-blooded, which means they cannot create their own body heat. So yeah, they need warmth, but they actually need a range of temperatures so that they can self-regulate, and those will be unique to the species of snake. They will need a cooler side and a warmer side, and you need to know what those parameters are. If you live somewhere that gets really hot or really cold and you can't get the enclosure temperatures to match what the animal needs, you're going to have to adjust the temperature of the entire room the snake is in. Pro tip, wait, actually, this is just a basic tip for everyone. Get the enclosure all set up before you get the animal and test until you have it right. Now let's talk humidity. Humidity is important with many species of snakes, and it's one of the most often neglected or improperly managed husbandry elements. Improper humidity can not only cause shedding problems, but can cause stress and illness and even death. It's not always easy to get those parameters correct without consistent maintenance. So if the animal you're looking to get needs a lot of humidity and you're not able to keep up with that maintenance, then think again. A great example, ball pythons are one of the most popular pet snakes and are often touted as the best beginner snake, but I absolutely disagree. Ball pythons require consistent high humidity, and so many people get them without understanding that. Glass enclosures with screen tops are commonly recommended in pet stores as the go-to way to house a reptile. But glass doesn't hold heat or humidity well, and that screen top just lets all the heat and humidity right out. Point being, the material the enclosure is made of can actually make a huge difference. PVC enclosures are the best for holding humidity, and wood is the best for holding heat. But wood can mold if you're trying to create a humid environment. So again, make sure you get the enclosure type that works best for the needs of the animal that you want. I'll get into more detailed tips on maintaining proper temps and humidity in future episodes, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss those. Number 3, diurnal, nocturnal, or crepuscular. Are you looking for a snake that is interesting to watch in its enclosure during the day? Well, then you'll want a diurnal snake that is active during the daytime. Corn snakes and other colubrids like king snakes and rat snakes are primarily diurnal. Nocturnal snakes, like most boas and pythons, are going to hide and sleep all day and be active at night. So although you can totally take them out and handle them during the day, they won't be very interesting to watch in their environment while you are awake. Some snakes that are typically diurnal or nocturnal can switch to being crepuscular at certain times of the year, which means they're active in the morning and the evening and hide during the middle of the day. Anu, my MBK, is like that, especially in the summer months. But almost all my other snakes are nocturnal, so I only get a few hours to watch them do their thing before I go to bed. I don't mind this, but it is something to consider. I'm planning on setting up some cameras soon to see what you guys get up to while I'm asleep. Number 4, feeding. One great thing about snakes is that unlike most other household pets, you don't have to feed them every day. Baby snakes eat once a week. Most adult snakes only need to eat every 10 to 14 days, and some species as adults should only be fed once a month. However, snakes are carnivores, so you can't be squeamish about feeding them dead animals. You can't expect them to switch over to salad just because you're not comfortable feeding them what they're meant to eat. So, are you comfortable handling dead animals and feeding a snake that can be pretty feisty when it's time to eat? If not, get a hamster and move on from snake keeping. Feeding snakes is actually fascinating to watch. Snakes swallow their prey whole and usually eat things much bigger than their heads. If you want to know more about how that's even possible, it's really amazing, go check out Clint's Reptiles and his video, How Snakes Eat and Why They Don't Eat People. Anyway, I love all animals, and I'm a vegetarian myself, so sure, I feel sympathy for the prey items, but it's what the snakes eat, so that's what I give them. So did you catch where I said dead animals when I was talking about feeding a moment ago? Although this is a hotly debated topic in the reptile community, I will only discuss and advise you to feed frozen thawed prey items to snakes on this channel. I do not feed my snakes live animals, and neither should you, unless they are babies and still need time to switch over and the prey items have no claws or teeth. I'll spend more time on this in a different video, but to summarize, feeding live prey to captive animals is a great way to end up with an injured snake. And I mean, hey, it's definitely easier for the keeper to feed frozen thawed to their snakes. I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in keeping a bunch of live mice, rats, and chicks of all sizes in my house. But the main point is that it's absolutely safer for the snake, and that safety is paramount. It's certainly more important than the notion that it's not natural for them to eat dead animals. Pro tip, set up a calendar for your snake's feeding, shedding, and enclosure cleaning schedules. I'll talk about it more in my video on the responsibility of snake ownership. So if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on it. Number 5, handleability. This is not a straightforward subject, as I don't believe that any species of snake is or is not handleable as a rule. There are a lot of generalizations out there, and although some do have merit, there are plenty of species that are widely regarded as bitey or just for display that can absolutely warm up to being handled if you put the time and effort into working with them. Want to learn more on how to do that? Check out my video on snake handling, behavior, and training. I'll put a link to it right up there. But remember that every snake has its own unique personality, just like any other animal. Judging an entire species in terms of personality is just silly. On that note, I personally recommend picking out the snake you want in person and handling it a little bit before taking it home so you can get an initial sense of its personality and its proclivity to being handled right off the bat. It won't always be the way to tell. Snakes have moods just like we do, and plenty of factors influence those moods. But it doesn't hurt to get that initial gut sense about the animal and whether you'll connect with each other. And yes, I said in person, because if you didn't know already, you can totally order snakes on the internet. I just don't usually do it myself for the reason I just mentioned, but you can ask the breeder about the animal's temperament before ordering. Ask if the snake gets handled regularly, or if they have any sense of its personality, and hopefully that person will be honest with you. When it really comes down to it, trust your gut. But you're never really going to know for sure what they'll be like until you've spent some solid time bonding with them. And if you don't do your part by providing them with the right environment, it's totally possible for a snake that is initially docile to end up being unhappy and not wanting to hang out with you. It's not just about them. This is a relationship. You both have roles to play in how that relationship develops over time. So let's talk about humans for a moment. Personally, taking care of my animals and all the responsibility that comes with that is something that brings me so much pleasure. No matter what is going on in the world, with work, or in my personal life, I feel a deep sense of peace and happiness in the act of caring for my animals and in knowing that they're healthy. For some, caretaking is a chore, and well, those people probably shouldn't have kids or pets of any kind, and that's okay. But what I want to talk about here is that caretaking can not only bring joy, but it can instill some structure in your life and imbue you with a sense of purpose. I need to stress here, I am in no way suggesting that snake therapy or caring for pets is a substitute for seeing a healthcare professional if you have serious mental health struggles. In fact, if you are seriously struggling, make sure you seek professional help first before becoming a caretaker of another living being. I see a therapist, there is no shame in it, but for me, caretaking has become a daily part of my mental health regimen. It's a tool for me. And the relationships I've built with my animals is a light that helps guide me through dark times. I mean, the earth is burning, the political climate is just as hot and miserable, and wars are raging. But in my little world right here, I'm able to find peace and happiness every day in the simple joys of nurturing these incredible animals. I feel comfort in knowing that I can do a little bit of good by keeping them healthy. It's empowering and it's fun, not to mention the bonding experience, which is so soothing and rewarding. So my point is, keeping snakes as pets can absolutely and 100% be a therapeutic experience for humans. That's why I call it snake therapy. Are you sleepy? Because it's daytime? Yeah. wrap up here, but to recap, snakes can be great pets that can offer us as their caretakers many mental and emotional health benefits. But it's crucial that we understand their needs and give them the best possible care that we can. In doing your research, being diligent about the quality of care you give them, you can end up with an incredible companion for many years, even decades. And in giving care to another being, we as humans can be rewarded with a sense of purpose, peace, and happiness. I hope you found this video informative and inspiring. If you did, please subscribe, like this video, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. There's so much more to come. Keep hanging with us, and you'll get tons of tips, tricks, and insights into how to have a healthy, happy snake and a healthy, happy relationship with them. I'm Shira, this is Severus Snake, and we'll see you next time on Snake Therapy. You can go back to sleep now, buddy. Sorry.